Gang, here's the really good stuff. So coach is gonna speed run and drop all of his draft picks for you so far, as well as some blockbuster NFL trades he's pretty sure are going down. So first, Dolphins. Coach already told you they're snagging Fernando Mendoza. They're trading a boatload of picks to move up 10 spots to get him. Vegas is gonna make out like bandits. Wait till you see who they come away with. They're gonna not have many picks to pair with Fernando, our Dolphins here, but they're going to get Fernando Carmona Jr., who was a 12-game starter for the Razorbacks at left tackle to try to help out the other Fernando on the line as an undrafted free agent or a late pick. Dylan Wade, of course, D. Wade, Miami legend. Wouldn't hurt to put him on the Dolphins, right? And DeQuan Finn on the Finns. Sounds about right, especially when my man played for the Miami Redhawks. Yeah, we'll take it. Patriots here, we like Zachariah Branch. Of course, like Anthony Dion Branch. And what do you know? Dion married to Shola when Deion Sanders' kid is Shiloh. Isn't that interesting? So let's see. Eric Butler, I got going there. Of course, like Malcolm Butler, Malcolm in the Middle's coming up. So you might pair Malcolm or Eric Butler with Arvell Reese. Maybe Eric Butler doesn't go to the Patriots. Maybe he goes wherever Arvell goes. I'm not positive on him. The Jets, I've got Sonny Styles going to the goddamn Jets, the old Big Daddy ritual, pairing him with Isaiah Revis, of course, Revis Island, and Bryce Caulfield, of course, like Holden Caulfield, catcher in the Rye, based in New York, and catcher in the Rye. Bob Uecker just passed, and his Brewers made it very, very deep, as Coach told you they would last year. The Ravens, I've got them swinging a monster trade for A.J. Brown. Pair him with Lamar Jackson so they can bitch and moan all season. And, of course, Lamar's best season came with Hollywood Brown. So our Brownies, Reuben Bain Jr., Bane, of course, Batman villain, put him in Cleveland to be a nemesis for Gotham, right? Pittsburgh from The Dark Knight and Detroit, commonly both associated with Gotham. So, of course, a Miami connection as well. And, of course, Coach told you he's a Hurricane. They did the Reuben Hurricane Carter joke, right? Well, of course, who played Reuben Hurricane Carter but Denzel Washington? Here's Denzel Boston, who just happened to play for the Washington Huskies, right? And Coach, of course, told you Denzel Ward is on their team, and Deion Sanders' kid is the quarterback, played by Denzel Washington. So I think that's a no-brainer. Harold Perkins Jr. going to get paired with Harold Fannin Jr., Jordan Hudson, of course, going to go to the team that Jordan Hudson's man's going to come coach again. Now moving on to the Steelers, they got the most picks in the draft 12, and I got a ton of undrafted guys for them too, so buckle up. First up, T.J. Parker out of Clemson. T.J., of course, like T.J. Watt, Fast Willie Parker. His name's Tamarion, right? Like Mike Tomlin and Omar Epps amalgamated together. And then I got him taking his teammate in the second round, Antonio Williams. They were at Clemson's pro day. So Antonio Williams, of course, like Antonio Brown, they need a slot receiver. Edge rusher isn't considered a huge need, but I think this guy is the type of edge rusher that wouldn't typically fall to the Steelers, but it's a combination of it's such a deep class. Plus, he had like a down year, but it was really like a coaching scheme change. Like, this kid's a killer if you watch the year before. So I think they like both of them. And then Kamari Ramsey, sign him, draft him to replace or make up for the step that Jalen Ramsey has lost. They might go Bud Clark there, right? Either safety would be fine by Coach. Kyle Lewis, this is a can't miss. I mean, he's going to be right there in the third round. He's a hometown Pitt Panther. He's not only a linebacker, but he plays nickel corner, which is a need of theirs. Steel Cage Casey, no way they're passing on that. Isaiah World, he's 6'8". They had Jason Worlds. Markel Bell, of course, like Le'Veon Bell. This dude's 6'9". These are like late round tackles. Of course, so Le'Veon Bell, like Le'Veon Moss, running back, Coach has going their way as well. Sawyer Robertson, just some bum quarterback they're going to pair with Jack Sawyer. Coach really likes Will Howard for the Steelers. Screw Aaron Rodgers. If he comes back, it's whatever. But Coach trusts Will Howard. He already won one championship for Coach. Why wouldn't I write it out again? Ohio quarterbacks seem to do pretty good by by the Steelers, right? I know there's an Ohio State curse, but Will Howard's tough as nails. I trust him, right? So Jordan Vanderberg, late round D tackle, of course, like James Vanderbeek, and then DeBerg, like Pittsburgh. Here's Heinrich Harburg, so Hein like Heinz ketchup, Berg like Pittsburgh. Of course, they had Ben Roethlisberger, if you don't think that they like Bergs in Pittsburgh. Travion Rudolph, you can pair him with Mason Rudolph. Speaking of which, here's Mason Randolph, which, what do you know, happened to start every game right next to Steel Cage Casey, right? You don't think they're going to pick him up as an undrafted guy, too? So Ben Bell, like Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, not as in love with him as the others. Sidney Fugar, like Sidney Crosby. Delby Lemieux, like Mario Lemieux. Latrell McCutcheon, right? Of course, like Pittsburgh great. Andrew McCutcheon. Manuel Henderson. They won the Super Bowl with Emmanuel Sanders, right? So, we got the Texans. I got them taking Jacob Rodriguez. Just feels like a D'Amico Ryans pick. Jacksonville, I got them swinging a big trade for sexy Dexter Lawrence to pair him with Trevor Lawrence. And Titans, Coach got this one right. He's finally in Tennessee. Coach told you that was going to go down because if you remember, he fell back-to-back years like him and Malik Willis. Willis was 86 and Hendon was 68. And I told you they were like an inverse of each other. They're both basically like the same quarterback. And Malik went to Tennessee, and I was like, oh, that would have been such a good landing spot for Hendon. But Hendon fell to our Lions, which had an established backup with Bridgewater. But Bridgewater helped mentor him. And now Hendon is on his hometown Titans, which, of course, he was a volunteer, where he was Hendo Cinco. At the same time, Malik Willis gets $20 million to be a Dolphin. People are thinking that contract is going to keep the Dolphins from signing Fernando, but it's a 3-year contract. By the time you got to pay Fernando, Malik Willis can be gone, or you could have traded him. $20 million is not too much when you got another guy on a rookie contract. Coach says Hendon would be very well served if they bring in Chris Brazzle Dazzle here, fellow Tennessee volunteer. They'd have to take this guy in the second round. I'm not sure what they're doing in the first. My gut tells me like an edge rusher, especially with so many there, and this is the home of Javon Curse. I think they'll find somebody they like, and then give Hendon a nice playmaker here in the second. I think they'd have good chemistry. Broncos, I've got them taking Cole Payton, right? Of course, we got Sean Payton. He's a big lefty. Tim Tebow, big lefty, was a Bronco. We got the Broncos losing to the Steelers in the playoffs this year. Bo Nix, injury problems kept him from being able to play in the AFC Championship last year. Could get injured again. Have Cole Payton come in overtime, looking like he's going to do the same thing to the Steelers, but throw a pick six, right? So Tommy Thomas here, just a good name, right? But coach was looking into him, just happens to have his favorite team as the Broncos and his favorite player all time is a Bronco. Just give him what he wants. So KC, they're tough, but I feel pretty good about the first pick. Mansour Delane, they could really use a quarterback. You really can't miss there. And then end of the first round, taking KC Concepcion. Now, if the Steelers don't go with Antonio Williams and TJ Parker, which I really, really think they do, especially because of the Tamarion thing, it feels too weird, and they were at the pro day and everything. They could go KC Concepcion because he is kind of a Steelers-type player, also immaculate conception. But I think the KC for Kansas City, I like that a little bit better. He should be there at 29 for him. I like him picking up Tyreek Chappelle, of course, like Tyreek Hill. The Raiders, here we go, trading back to 11, getting a stud guard, absolute can't miss. Of course, his name's Vega, Viva Las Vegas. He's going to be a huge needle mover for them. They have the worst line in the whole league. They don't need Fernando to come in and get murdered back there. They already got Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins was pursued, right? He doesn't sign this contract unless he knows he's a starter, period. Like that, and, there's more to it than that. He's got his coaching staff there. Now, the Raiders, right, they could have waited, not signed anybody, signed him. Like, why were they in a rush to get Kirk, make sure they had a quarterback before this draft, right? They signed him the day after they went to Fernando's pro day. I can't believe I didn't work in Coach Coach found Fernando's fatal flaw. He telegraphs his passes. They all talk about he's only a one-read guy, and I'm sure that's true. But even worse, even if you're not looking, he pats the ball so hard you can audibly hear when the ball's about to come out, like a quarter of a second in advance, right? So you know as soon as you hear that, oh, better look, ball's coming out, right? By the time you turn your head, that's right when the ball's coming, like leaving his hands, right? So I just saw Pick City, at least his rookie year, till he gets that habit out of him. Shador fell for the same reason last year, but Shador's patting was more like innocuous. It wasn't a super hard, loud pat right before he throws the ball. It was just like random, like I got nothing better to do right now. Might as well pat the ball. Might throw it in a couple seconds. You know what I mean? Like Fernando's, it's always right when he's about to throw it. It's like a nervous tick type thing, and it's really, really loud, like no joke. So that a lot of teams are going to be out on the Fernando thing, right? So the Dolphins are like the only guys that would take him number one. They're going to have to way overpay, but Vegas makes out like bandits getting Vega, stud lineman, pair him with Omar Cooper Jr., replace Amari Cooper, right? So you got Omar Cooper Jr. and Trey Tucker with Brock Bowers and a stud guard. You know, you just got to they got a lot. They're gonna have a lot more picks too. They're gonna have like 2 seconds, 2/3, 2/4. You know, they can definitely beef up the line. Maybe they get Dunker, Jennings Dunker, right? You know, they got a lot of options. And honestly, people think tackle is a need for them, but they have 3 starting caliber tackles. They just need to find something that works there and get like some stability. You know, maybe you take one more to increase your chances, but all you need is 2 out of 3 working out there, and then the other should be a decent backup. You put a stud guard next to that guy. I'm sure Brock Bowers is a decent blocker. You know, you just got to get a center. They're not super valuable. I'll bet they get like the best center in the draft probably in the 2nd or 3rd round. So, yeah, the Raiders, this is just going to be too much for them to pass up. They're going to get Jude Bowery, offensive tackle. So here's their other tackle, right? Coach was saying, right? So he'll be able to block right next to Brock Bowers. Amari Niblek, tight end, have him in the locker room with Brock Bowers, right? Like Amari Cooper. Khalil Saunders, like Khalil Mack. Chargers, Chandler Rivers, of course, Phillip Rivers. Maybe he goes to the Colts, right, because they just signed him. Cowboys, Emmett Johnson, running back. Of course, you got to send a running back named Emmett to the Cowboys. They're going to love him. Austin Barber, like Marion Barber. Miles Austin. R.J. Maryland, like Russell Maryland. Roy Williams, of course, like other Cowboy safety, Roy Williams. So that's their haul. Coaches, Eagles. Josiah Trotter, right, like Jeremiah Trotter, Jamon Tapp, like Daryl Tapp, Deuce Chestnut, like Deuce Staley, Tanner Arkin and Tanner Wall, like Tanner McKee, LaShawn Williams, running back, of course, like Shady McCoy, Devon Boykins, like Brandon Boykin. The Skins coach only has one for him, but it's a banger. So, of course, coach told you not only that their quarterback, Daniels, was going to get injured last year, but he told you exactly what body part. He told you it's going to be an elbow injury. He's going to be down for the season. Boom, what do you know? Right on the freaking money. And who does coach have? Because they're going to feel a little shaky. They're not going to want to take it's not going to be like their first rounder probably, right? But they're going to want somebody, like, because they still feel good with Daniels as their starter, but they're going to want some sort of prospect who's kind of like a freak athlete type guy, to come in and possibly be able to win some games if he goes down again, or maybe even be their QB of the future if, worst case scenario. Taylon Green, 6'6", runs like a 4.3, 640. This cat is a freak. If you can teach him how to be a quarterback, he's going to be amazing, but it's a big ask. I'm not sure exactly what the QB development staff is like in Washington, but if there's their current starters any example, he got off to a hot start. So Giants here, coach has them going with Fa'amo because they just signed Daniel Fa'alil, and then Khalil Jacobs, like Brandon Jacobs. Nothing too exciting for them. Like, if coach doesn't have a good feel for a lot of the guys, he just doesn't put them anywhere, right? So this is just a small sample of all the guys in the draft. Not everybody or even close to it. Bear, this is like at most, except like the Steelers went through like their whole draft. Most teams, it's just like a couple picks and usually like late rounders or undrafted guys, right? So we're still working on it. The Bears, Coach says, no way. They passed on Caleb Lomo, who's going to be right there. They've had major tackle issues. They just drafted Caleb Williams last year. Just makes too much sense. Lions, Jonathan Decker, right? They've got an issue with Taylor Decker possibly retired. Jonathan Decker is Central Michigan guy. And they really need an edge rusher. Coach realized he just left someone out. I'm not sure where they're going, but there's this quarterback named Clark, and coach is telling you that old Clark here is for sure the steal of this draft. In coach's opinion, he might not work out, but this is the guy you would want to take a risk on, right? So Jacob Clark, probably going undrafted, 6'3", 235. This cat only played 2 minutes in the Senior Bowl and managed to win MVP because he led an 80-yard drive. He's got several other comebacks under his belt. He just seems to be getting overlooked. And if it's a weak draft, I think like a more unknown guy who seems to keep popping. I would definitely take a flyer on this guy as an undrafted. So whoever gets him, coach thinks is getting a steal. Missouri State, maybe he goes to KC. Right, so not sure. Clark does make me think of the Steelers because they have a band called the Clarks out of Pittsburgh. Maybe they go with Bud Clark and Jacob Clark. But Packers, here's a fun one for you, right? Coach says they're trading a bundle of picks, too, to trade up to get Jeremiah Love, although they're not getting fleeced like the Dolphins because Jeremiah is going to fall near the end of the first round, coach thinks. They're telling you he's going to be like a top 5 pick for sure. But I just don't think there's going to be a lot of guys who want a running back in the first round after what happened with the Raiders last year. And, teams have been kind of sour on running backs the past decade or so anyways, treating them more as disposable. So coach likes Jeremiah Love falling to like 29, and then the Packers trading pretty much the rest of their draft this year. And it would be so worth it for them because they're already a team that's considered a top contender. You don't need a lot of holes to fill. You want to add a needle mover. And this is a blue chip talent in a draft where there's very few. This type of talent shouldn't have came anywhere near you. He's the next Amon Green. It's a perfect fit. Jordan Love to Jeremiah Love. Coach says is all but a done deal. Vikings, Miller Moss, like Randy Moss, Cash Jones. I like him going there too because Randy Moss said the straight cash homie. Justin Jefferson, linebacker, of course, like Justin Jefferson, Vikings wide receiver. New Orleans Saints, Garrett Nussmeier. His dad not only was a Saint, but he is the current Saints offensive coordinator. I think for sure he's got to take his kid, right? And then Bengali Kamara, like Alvin Kamara. I mean, it's kind of like Bengal too. Maybe he goes to the Bengals. So Buccaneers, Gronowski just sounds like a Buccaneer. Talib Salahudin reminds me of Aqib Talib. Cardinals, I got him going Michael Fitzgerald. Probably some boring tackle in the first round. Like Larry Fitzgerald. There was another player named Michael Fitzgerald who didn't play for the Cardinals, so but he wasn't a receiver. We'll see. Now, Rams. Keldrick Falk, of course, like Marshall Falk, but the Rams are actually in a position they're like the only team that can go best player available, and like Keldrick Falk isn't necessarily like a finished product, like he needs some work, but he's got a freak frame and stuff. So to me, the combination of the Marshall Falk thing and just the type of player that's going to be sitting there, I don't think they could possibly pass on him. The Niners, Jack Walsh, like Bill Walsh. That's all coach has for you. Appreciate you.